Hey everybody, I want to do the second part of the video, who was the mastermind in the murder of Dan Markel, and this second part series will involve the Adelsons, and that is Charles Adelson, Donna Adelson, and Wendy Adelson. So I just did the video, who was the mastermind between Sigfredo Garcia, Katherine Magbanua, and Luis Rivera. So I think that there's about 9 pieces of key evidence that we can look at that involve Donna, Wendy, and Charles, and we can see who we believe to be the most involved in this murder for hire through these pieces of evidence, and therefore maybe draw a conclusion of whose idea this whole murder for hire actually was. I'm going to start with the first piece of evidence in this video series, who was the mastermind of the Dan Markel murder, and it's Donna's emails. This email was written on June 25th of 2013 in advance of a July 2013 court hearing in the divorce between Wendy Adelson and Dan Markel. Donna wrote an email to Wendy Adelson with the subject line, "Please read, very important." And if you want to hear more about that email, you can check out my video Donna's emails to have excerpts read, and it was an explosive email. The ideas that she could convert the children's religion or dress them up in anti-Semitic costumes and pretty crazy stuff. The email was said to set these ideas into motion of animosity towards Dan Markel. So the next piece of evidence I want to look at is the Best Buy appointment. On July 11th of 2014, Donna emailed Wendy to confirm a Best Buy appointment to fix a broken TV set. It was scheduled between 8 a.m. and noon on July 18th of 2014. So we know that Dan Markel was killed around 11 a.m. This Best Buy appointment proves that Donna made this appointment, and it is believed to be an alibi for Wendy. And if that's true, then Donna might have some involvement. I'm not saying that she does, but the first piece of evidence, the email, and then this Best Buy appointment seem to be motive for murder and creating alibis. So the next piece of evidence is the testimony from Jeffrey Lacoste that on July 13th of 2014, Wendy told Jeff about a conversation that her family was looking into hiring a hitman for $15,000 or $50,000. And when Jeffrey was on the stand, I believe that he said her family, and so I'm not sure she said any names, but we're assuming her entire family, like even Harvey. So that's her mother, Charlie, and father. And maybe Wendy was kind of sending out a lifeline or seeing that if he actually took her seriously. But obviously Jeff didn't take her seriously, and it actually happened, and he says that he deeply regrets not saying anything to police. So the next piece of evidence is the drive-by on Trescott from Wendy on July 18th of 2014. We know that Dan was killed around 11 a.m. on July 18th, and Wendy took a cut-through on Trescott on around 12:40 p.m., and officers saw her minivan do a 3-point turn, and they did not stop her, and they regret not stopping her, but her vehicle was said to be there. I believe that they have her cell phone pings that show that she did in fact drive by the murder scene. So we'll look into that later, that places Wendy actually at the murder scene after the scene, which if she was there, it's very unlucky that she was, because it places her near the crime scene and makes her look guilty. Okay, the next piece of evidence is the stapled cash, and this piece of evidence is directly tied to Charles Adelson. He was said to have stapled all of his cash that he had at his house. I believe he would staple the hundreds into piles of thousands. And there were 2 witnesses who said that they saw this stapled cash. I believe June Umchenda and Jessica Rodriguez Rivera said that they saw the stapled cash. We all know that Katherine's phone pinged at Charles Adelson's house the day after the murder, and then she drove over to Jessica Rodriguez Luis Rivera's house to deliver the cash the next day. All right, the next piece of evidence is the signed checks. So this piece of evidence ties Donna Adelson and Charles Adelson to the murder, because this also involves Katherine Magbanua, who in my last video seemed like the mastermind between Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia. So these signed checks were given to Katherine, a lot of people believe, as payment for the murder and a favor to Katherine so she could get her children health care to meet the criteria for a healthcare subsidy. And she was said not to have worked at the Adelson Institute. So these checks look very suspicious because they are signed in consecutive checks without her completing any work. And if you want more information, you can look at the video Donna's Evidence for more in depth about those checks. So the next piece of evidence is the wiretaps. Wendy Adelson was not involved in the wiretaps. It was just Charlie Adelson and Donna Adelson, but Charlie was probably the most involved in the wiretaps from the Adelson. So that might make him look like the mastermind because he was the most involved in those wiretaps. Okay, and the next piece of evidence is the bad joke. And we all know that this bad joke originated from Charlie Adelson, and we're not sure if Donna was aware of the joke. We know that Wendy was aware of the joke because of her testimony. So far, the bad joke was between, from what we know, Charlie and Wendy, because we know that the joke was that getting her a TV was cheaper than hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markel, which we know that he got her a TV and hired a hitman to kill Dan Markel. The next piece of evidence is the crime scene and the weapon. We all know that none of them were actually at the crime scene during the time of the crime, but Wendy is the only person who drove near the crime scene from the Adelson, so she was probably the most involved in that aspect, that piece of evidence. That pretty much sums everything up. So you guys be the judge. Let me know who you believe is the mastermind and the most involved in this incriminating evidence. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll have another Q&A coming out very soon. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day.